A part of this video is sponsored by a secret organization definitely not hellbent on taking over the world, but which part exactly is hidden behind a locked door and the key is in a box locked in another box behind a hidden crane puzzle or some other obtuse process. It is 1996, the world gets Resident Evil, a locked camera slow burn survival horror where a special forces team battle zombies in a creepy mansion and then uncover a greater world-threatening conspiracy. Then in 1998 we get Resident Evil 2, a locked camera slow burn survival horror where a special forces team battle zombies in a creepy city and then uncover a world-threatening conspiracy. And my god, if the formula works twice, it means it's pretty good, but what if we replace the zombies with dinosaurs? Well, only 1 year later, in 1999, while we're all partying like Prince instructed us to, Capcom dropped Dino Crisis, a slow-burn survival horror with locked camera where a special forces team battle dinosaurs on a creepy island and then uncover a world-threatening conspiracy, and my god, I think we all remember this game being pretty damn good. So welcome, I'm Josh Strife Hayes, and over here in the UK, I got my first taste of Dino Crisis on PlayStation Demo Disc number 51, and while I was mostly excited about Metal Gear Special Missions and Quake 2, the moment that T-Rex smashed through the office window and gave 9-year-old me a lifelong fear of floor-to-ceiling windows, I knew Dino Crisis was something special. But why am I talking about Dino Crisis? Because I've already made a review on this game back on my main channel 4 years ago. Back when I was putting green screen skits into the videos, which I still stand by being very funny. Resident Evil 2 sold well, but now we need a new gimmick. What have you got for me? Make it first person, set it on a boat. That's rubbish, no one will play it. You. Turn it into a hack and slash action game about devils. They might be crying. That's a terrible idea and will never work. You, Johnson, what have you got? Johnson! Dinosaurs. It's genius. Give that man a raise. You're welcome. What are we doing? Please like and subscribe. Well, it's because Dino Crisis, now 25 years old, saw a re-release on the PlayStation Plus store, and everyone was very excited until everyone realised it was locked behind the PS Plus Premium Tier membership, the most expensive level at $18 a month. Which sucks because it's basically renting the game, and call me old school, but I'm a big fan of video game ownership. When I pay money for a game, I like to know I can access that game whenever and install it wherever. An archaic view, I know, but thankfully one shared by the beautiful sponsor of this video, Good Old Games. I've worked with GOG a few times. I very much agree with their DRM-free policy and just selling you the game files to keep. So when they told me that Dino Crisis wasn't just coming back to the PlayStation Plus store, but also to PC, and it would be cheaper to buy and own it rather than rent it, I was pretty happy. And when they asked me for a favour, I was listening. The GOG team watch my videos and they've seen the original Dino Crisis review from 4 years ago, so they've asked me to play through the PC build of Dino Crisis 1 completely and compare it with the previous PlayStation 1 build, pick up any bugs and breaks and see if it, works. So this video is both a replay and a review of Dino Crisis and a technical test that the GOG version actually works. Then at the end I may have some news on Dino Crisis 2. As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive and let me focus on older, more obscure games. Download, launch, and it launches in full screen. Now, I'm a fan of playing games in windowed mode for ease of recording, but old games often crash whenever you Alt-Tab or try and affect the resolution, and I can't find that graphical option in-game. So I asked GOG if it can be launched in windowed mode, and they send me back this. This is the level of professionalism we're working with. Paint skills are off the charts. But fair play to them, that does work, and windowed mode is actually very stable. No crashes my entire playthrough. You can remap the controls from keyboard to a controller pretty easily, and I like how on the remap screen, whatever button you have highlighted, Regina, the main character, is doing that action in the background. And now one of the 3 problems I found during the playtest. How do you quit the program? You can Alt-Tab and click X or Control-Alt-Delete to bring up Task Manager, but where's the actual quit option in the game? Well, this isn't listed in the controls layout, and while it is listed in the manual, the game launches in full screen, so if you launched it first, you can't open the manual, but you need to press F9 twice. Can't really fault Good Old Games for this one though, as this is a quarter-of-a-century old PC game. Game design was a lawless wasteland back then. Start the game, and you'll notice we can choose Operation Wipeout. On the PlayStation version, that's a reward for beating the game in under 5 hours. On the PC version, it's unlocked as default. We'll have a look at that later. For now, we choose Original or Arrange mode. And what is the difference? It's not quite difficulty. Both of these are considered normal, despite one of them being harder. Hard mode is actually unlocked by completing either of these. These are region differences. Original is the Japanese version of the game, which gives you 30 continues, and Arrange mode is American, which gives you 5. The placement of in-game items is slightly different, and the code numbers you find on keycards and the numbered solutions to puzzles are also slightly different. If you're reading a guide while playing the game, make sure it's the guide for the version you are playing. I'll go with Original, and for my first playthrough I'll go with Easy mode. This is a hard game with 3 endings, and the 30 continues might be needed. And now choose a costume. Now, you're meant to start with the classic infiltration spy costume, the one everyone cosplays. The others, the army battle and then ancient cave woman, are rewards for completing the game and getting one of the 4 endings, but here they're just available from the start. This is either an unlock bug on the build I'm playing, or they've just made them available on the PC build, because after I did finish the game and went back to replay it, it asked me if I wanted to use the unlimited ammo grenade launcher, which is meant to be a reward for finding all 3 endings, not just 1. I've messaged the GOG team to find out what this is. Special Agent Tom has been working undercover at a secret clean energy research project on Ibis Island, which he suspects to be a cover for something else. While here, Agent Tom has located Dr. Kirk, a wanted criminal and leading mind on clean energy. The anomaly here is Dr. Kirk is meant to have died 3 years ago. So we, a member of a crack military team, are sent in to infiltrate Ibis Island Research Center and extract Dr. Kirk for our government. The intro movie has no subtitles, which is a shame, and the audio balancing is really showing its age.
Feels like we got a little turbulence.
Once you hit the ground, head straight to the designated convergence point. Got it?
It must be said, though, the CGI visuals still stand up remarkably well. We parachute into the island, but one of our team, Cooper, misses the landing spot and ends up in a forest. Unfortunately for Cooper, he's not alone. Now, this is one thing Dino Crisis does very differently to Resident Evil. It shows you the big bad right away. Everyone knows Resident Evil games are zombie games, but they still pace out the zombie reveals, leading to that iconic turning face scene in the first one. In Resident Evil 2, you've got the licker crawling along the ceiling. Even the film Jurassic Park doesn't actually show you the dinosaurs until about 1/3 in. The build-up matters. The big bad remains in the shadows. But not in Dino Crisis. Opening cutscene, here's a T-Rex. Get ready for dinosaurs in a crisis. Let's meet the 3 remaining team members. Squad leader Gale, rough and ready, in charge, no nonsense. Tech support Rick, sassy and argumentative, not in charge, some nonsense. And your character, Regina, a red-headed woman. And that is all the characterization you get. Look, I don't hate Regina because there's nothing to hate in the same way there's nothing to love. The character design is memorable because of the red hair and cool spy suit, but beyond that, she is a really bland character. Regina isn't her real name, that's a code name. We never learn her real name or her history, her loves, fears, wants, desires, family connections, friends, lovers, losses, successes, where she came from or where she wants to go to. She is voiced in cutscenes and the voice acting is fine for being 25 years old, but she has no real character depth beyond protagonist. We learn more about Gale and Rick than Regina, and they both have more compelling reasons for doing stuff and the choices they make. In fact, the game has 3 specific moments you get to make any kind of choice, and that choice is always do Gale's plan or do Rick's plan. Now, not every game needs a fully fleshed out protagonist. Sometimes the protagonist is simply an insert for the player, allowing you to choose your own name or your own look, allowing the player to think they are the one involved in the actions of the game, but they haven't done that here. This is Regina. She is meant to be an individual unto herself, they've just forgot to actually write that. So, we huddle up and prepare to break into the facility, which is oddly quiet.
Okay, this is the first checkpoint. Playtime is officially over, kiddies. Something's wrong. The lights in the guardhouse are out.
Maybe this has been a wild night of partying for the guards. You know, a little song, a little dance.
Stay here, Junior. Leave the guards to me.
Hey, did you hear what he just called me?
Forget about it. Just let Gale handle this.
All right, it's clear.
It seems all is not well on Evil Experiment Island, so we go and look around, and this is the first major change from Resident Evil 1 and 2 to Dino Crisis. Resident Evil games at the time used pre-rendered backgrounds, similar to old Final Fantasy game boss fights, meaning while it may look 3D, this is actually a flat image or a flat animated image, and there are no 3D light sources or mechanics interacting with it. There are no physical objects within the game world to block your line of sight or your shooting sight, and the character movement is actually confined to a layer which is mapped to the image but is not the image itself. Dino Crisis, however, used an actual real-time 3D game environment, meaning the enemy AI would be restricted by walls and objects. Shooting could be blocked, and the camera, while still a blend of static and on rails, could fly along those rails into the level itself because it physically existed. This also allowed larger 3D puzzles to exist, and moving objects in the environment would be used a lot. The downside of real-time environments is because they need processing power to be updated, they can't be as stylized or as detailed as pre-rendered ones. I mean, look at the opening scene of Resident Evil 2 on the street with the shop front. Fire, debris, implied depth, color, it's beautiful. Compare that with Dino Crisis, which is technically more impressive, but visually less remarkable. This is one of the reasons that Dino Crisis 2 went back to pre-rendered. While designers are impressed with technical advances, players just want a good game. And 25 years ago, real-time environments just didn't have the edge over pre-rendered background graphics. I do like how even in the cutscenes we still get the door transition visual, nice way to tie cutscenes and gameplay together. So the team splits up to look for a way inside the island. The camera is on a track and flies after us, and we quickly find a rip in the chain link fence, the dialogue here being painfully late 90s and nobody on this team sounding professional except for Gale.
Let me guess. This is some of your handiwork, right?
The brass is still warm. These guards were shooting at something very recently.
So who were they fighting?
This wasn't much of a fight. I don't think these guards hit anything before getting sliced and diced. Whatever they were shooting at came in through there, and ripped right through the steel fence.
Well, the hole is nice and clean. But I still say you could have done this.
Very funny. We still need to figure out what happened here. Continue to sweep the area.
Small graphical quirk. See that spinning box item? That's meant to be behind the chain link fence, and if we run closer we can see that it is indeed behind the fence, but the object icon from this angle spins on top of the fence graphic. Ironically, this is the exact kind of graphical issue that having a 3D rendered environment instead of a pre-rendered background is meant to be able to solve. So I raised this to GOG, and yeah, apparently it's a known legacy issue. Thankfully, this is the only part of the game this happens in. This locked gate says we need the B1 backup generator key, and I very much appreciate being told what key we need, so quick gameplay rundown. Tank controls, left and right turn you. You can run forward or backward, or do a quick 180 if needed. Very rarely useful as we'll be running past most enemies. I push this shelf out the way, grab a med kit from underneath it, and why do I already have a grenade gun? So I chose original mode and then easy mode because I remember that easy increases Regina's health, and I know this is a hard game, but it seems easy mode does more than that. It is mechanically different, starting you with the shotgun, several ammo types, and the grenade launcher. And I just don't feel this is fair, so I have restarted on normal mode where you only start with the pistol. Around the outside we find our first dead body torn apart. You can search it for a medical item which we'll mix later, and now our first puzzle. Restart the generator by switching these batteries around to match the coloured order on the wall. Pretty simple stuff. Do that, power restored. Back to the guardhouse, but now we are being stalked. Our first dinosaur fight, so I run away and change zones via the gate. But no, it follows you, even jumping over the fence, and I love this because dinosaurs are not zombies, and what you've come to expect from Resident Evil is flipped on its head. Zombies are slow, dinosaurs are fast. Zombies won't follow you from screen to screen, dinosaurs will. In fact, the behaviour of the dinosaurs was different enough to the classic zombies that Capcom described Dino Crisis not as survival horror, but as panic horror. A zombie is a moment of I need to get away or kill it. You must survive. A dinosaur is too fast to let you decide, so you'll just panic. Now, they're not a perfect horror enemy. We'll see later they have many mechanical flaws, but they are a nice change of pace, where one zombie usually isn't a problem, but one dinosaur absolutely is. So we run far enough away and the dinosaur gives up. But why did I run and not fight? Well, let's talk about the weapons the game gives you. You start with a pistol, and this is a trap. It is utterly useless against everything. The amount of bullets needed to take down anything is so high you're almost guaranteed to take at least one attack in retaliation before killing anything. It's there to give you the illusion of safety, and you'll very quickly realise you should never use it ever. The shotgun is better, but still you're better off using the sleep darts and running past stuff while it takes a nap instead of actually trying to kill anything, and the grenade launcher is so late game it's only useful for the final boss. That said, there are only about 4 enemies in the entire game you actually want to kill, and they don't respawn, and you'll be killing them with the insta-kill one-shot poison darts we'll be making later. If you do get hit, you take damage, and if you open the menu screen, you'll see Regina's face and her health bar is nowhere. So when injured, you'll start limping. Maybe you'll bleed and leave a blood trail behind you. You can use med packs to heal and stop the bleeding, but how do you know when to use a med pack or how much health you actually have? Whether you should use a small, medium, or large med pack? Well, you kinda don't. There's no way to know how close to death you are at a glance. It's very much a if you get hit, heal kind of strategy. Quick radio call from Rick. He's heading to the security room we should follow, and now we have a map. Blue is where we are, red is where we need to be. Now, you won't always have a red destination, and sometimes you'll have the final destination highlighted, but you'll need to pick up an item along the way from a different room, and you'll just need to remember where that room is. There's also no arrow or compass, so you don't know exactly where you are or where you're facing within a specific room. Inside the building, we find some red laser grids. We'll be able to turn these on and off later, and then rappel up into the vents to move around. The vent system is always safe, and if you can remember the connections, serves as a shortcut around the whole facility. Eventually, we reach the large main entrance hall, and I think they were trying to match the vibes of the entrance halls in the Resident Evil games, the cinematic glance around, the zoom out with the camera, the echoing sound, but it feels lacking. Because of the 3D environment, it's a basic grey colour palette. Visually and mechanically, it's rather dull, rather small. There's just not much going on here compared to, say, the Raccoon City Police Department. We find some handgun bullets. Remember, you have to manually select the type of ammo that you're equipping from the menu every time. There's no way to fast do it in-game. And on the wall, we find a green box. The game has yellow, green, and red boxes you open with plugs. Once a box is open, you can access any box of the same color from that box. Boxes contain medical stuff or ammo, letting you store excess items in them too. And eventually, we meet up with Rick in the security room, but there is no sign of Gale. We need to head to the underground bit of the facility. You'd think with the whole dinosaur issue we'd just radio to escape, but it turns out Cooper, the T-Rex snack from the opening, had the only long-range radio, so we're stuck here until we can turn the facility antenna on. May as well do the mission. Press on, find the shotgun and one half of a DDK lock. The shotgun is the best weapon in the game by far, as it can fire a variety of ammo, and the DDK system will become a real convoluted problem real quick. Basically, every locked door requires 2 specific discs, a cipher and a code. Just think of them as 2 keys for one door. The way they work gets increasingly complex. We find a note about the DDK system lock and then a card key which says Leo. Except it doesn't. It says 037 upside down, but you're not meant to know this yet. When you leave this room, you're asked if you want to save. Dino Crisis has save rooms. You can save an unlimited number of times, but only when trying to leave these rooms. The dinosaurs, while scary, are none too bright and will run into laser grids over and over and over again. We find our first tranquilizer dart and the second part of the H-code unlock. We pop upstairs, then get attacked by a raptor, which knocks the shotgun out of your hands. So pick it up, re-equip it, choose your ammo, and then get it knocked out of your hands again. This is why running past enemies is often the best choice. I find a memo with the code for the weapons locker in the staff room, 7687. And if you forget this code, you can check the memos you found in nowhere. You can't actually do that. You have no journal, no diary, no collected notes section. This is old school, baby. You're writing information down or you are forgetting it. And you genuinely do need to write a few numbers down. Open the weapons locker, find an upgrade for the gun. To use that, you must first equip the gun and then try and equip the upgrade bit, and it will combine them. Ironically, this doesn't use the mix system, which combines everything else. Leave the room, get jumped by 2 raptors, and die. This is where your continues come in. You respawn in the previous room, and both enemies are now asleep, so walk, don't run, and you'll be fine. Head into the office and crack the door cipher. The DDK system is used on a few doors and grows in complexity. At first, you simply remove the letters shown in the cipher from the main code. Later, you need to remove entire columns of letters, then they use a replacement cipher, swapping letters for numbers, and finally a combination of all of them. Thankfully, the answers are all really simple, like how the chief's office is locked with the code chief. In here we find a survivor. They give us another keycard. This one says Sol, except it doesn't. It's 705 upside down. You can now put both of these keycards into the wall safe, matching the medal and the symbol on the wall and inputting the 6-digit combination to access the actual keycard. But when you try to leave this room... This window smash was the moment in the demo that everyone realized Dino Crisis was going to be something special. This was the big, scary moment, and you deal with it by just kinda standing still and shooting whenever the T-Rex lunges at you. Just wait for it to open its mouth and shoot. You come to realize very quickly Dino Crisis is a puzzle game. It's not action, it's not horror, it's not even panic really, it's puzzle. Every scripted fight is a puzzle to solve. In fact, when you count the locked doors, ciphers, restarting generators, fixing computer terminals, and rewriting ID cards, Dino Crisis has more puzzles than dinosaurs. A more accurate title would be Puzzle Facility, featuring dinosaurs. Escape the office and return to the room, but our inventory is filling up, so let's mix stuff, and this will become a major mechanic. Mixing lets you combine 2 things into something better. Some objects are made to be mixed, like the intensifier or the anesthetic aid. Medpacks come in 3 sizes, small, medium, and large, but each of these has 3 versions: regular, Plus, and Plus Plus. A Medpack Small mixed with a Hemostat makes a Medpack Small Plus. There is no difference from the base version to the Plus or the Plus Plus. A small Medpack is the same as a small Medpack Plus Plus. You just need to progress through these phases before it can become a better item used in mixing. There's a handy chart here which lists all the combinations. But here's a useful tip. None of these combinations matter except the resuscitation, which gets you up after death, or the insta-kill poison dart, which one-shots anything except the T-Rex. Both of these items are the ultimate endpoints of combining anything with anything else. So when your inventory fills up, just mix whatever you can together to make space. Keep one med kit as a backup, but ultimately, you just want the poison darts. Find a guardsman's diary with the code 0375. This gets us the main entrance key, and outside we find the body of Mark Doyle, employee number 47812. Remember this, you'll need it later. A quick radio update lets us know Dr. Kirk may have been spotted, so we give chase, and I like this. If you interact with a map on the wall, it will update your actual map with more rooms. That is a lovely mechanic. More dinosaur ambushes, into a room, find a key for the backup generator from the start, and then danger flashes up. This happens a few times in the game. It's a quick time event where you just press everything really fast. Mash all the buttons. If you mash enough, you will live. If you don't, you will die. So mash buttons and get saved by Gale via the power of gun. And you will realize Gale's entire personality is gun. You will also notice in the cutscene a bit of model shake on Gale, or objects in the foreground whenever they're close to the camera. This is an artifact of scaling the graphics up, not game-breaking and infrequent, but also noticeable. Hello, post-editing Josh here. Interesting point on the flickering issue because it will happen more. My friend Andy edited this video, and Andy is a competent designer, so noticed the issue and was able to explain it to me slightly better. We take for granted nowadays something in 3D design called Z buffering, which stores the distance from the camera for every individual pixel on the screen. This Z buffer makes sure that when many 3D objects exist in a gaming space, depending on where the camera is at any given time, pixels behind other pixels don't get drawn on top even though they exist within the gaming world. But Z buffering was a bit too expensive for the humble little PlayStation 1 to be able to do. This is another reason why pre-rendered backgrounds look so good. They don't need to Z buffer, as the background technically didn't have a distance from the camera, it was just a background image. There were, however, a few workarounds to effectively do what Z buffering does on the PlayStation without actually doing it. The most common technique, and one he believes Dino Crisis is using, is called the painter's algorithm, which works out which edge of a polygon is closest to the camera and then draws all the pixels onto that polygon. Unfortunately, this creates problems with overlapping polygons where the closest pixel changes order, or parts of a polygon were both in front of and behind another, which is the nature of 3D shapes. It was such tricks and clever camera angles like this that allowed us to have 3D on the PlayStation 1, which lacks the memory to handle the Z position of all those pixels, but the more polygons overlapped in the scene, the more noticeable the flaws in that technique became. Basically, it's this console doing its best. Meet back up with the team in the control room to discuss the plan. We need to go to the underground area, but that means fixing the backup generator, which we now have the key for. Back to the starting area and another identical battery switching puzzle. Return, then a dinosaur jumps through the glass and the music gets a bit crazy. Panic mode, if you will. Music in Dino Crisis is for the most part fine. It's atmospheric, it's spooky, and during moments of panic, it's a disorganized, chaotic mess which works really well. Right up until that music keeps playing during a long puzzle section later and doesn't fit the mood at all, but we'll get to that soon. Back at the control room, the first major choice of the game. With the generator running, we can now go into the lower levels of the facility and find Dr. Kirk, but there's also a distress signal coming from the east. Possibly Cooper. Team leader Gale wants to search for Dr. Kirk, stick to the mission, but Rick wants to forget the mission and go and find the distress beacon, potentially saving our friend. This devolves into an argument, and honestly, Rick does not sound like a disciplined soldier at all.
Look, we'll deal with it later. Our first priority is the survivor in the underground. It could be the doc.
What are you talking about? He's asking for our help. We don't leave our own behind.
And what if it's a trap? Would you want one of us to come and rescue you?
Don't bother. I'm willing to take that risk.
Remember our mission. We're not here to babysit.
That's your way of operating, not mine.
You now need to make the choice. Do what Gale, your commanding officer, wants and go and find Dr. Kirk, or go with Rick on a rescue mission, and I have issues with this. Regina has no personality of her own, but both Gale and Rick have defined characteristics. Serious and focused versus capable but undisciplined, and Dr. Kirk, who we meet later, is a very strong character, but not Regina. The only choice she, or you, the player, will make is to obey Gale and stick to the mission, or follow Rick and go off course. Both of these will ultimately get you to the same place, but it's basically the game asking you, do you like Rick or Gale more? Which is a strange question when you are meant to be the main character. In my first playthrough, I followed Gale because we are here to do a job, so this time I'll follow Rick. Mix it up a little bit. But what happens if you say, go one way, but then actually try to go the other? Well, the game stops you. You can't change your mind. Which is odd, because to get the secret ending, you literally need to do that. The final choice of the game, you must say you're going to do one thing and then specifically go and do another, despite teaching the player here that you can't do that. So we follow Rick, and then a pterodactyl swoops down and picks us up. Mash those buttons for another QuickTime event or get smashed into a wall. So let's just discuss the enemies that you'll face. Dino Crisis 1 has 5 enemies, 4 if you don't count the T-Rex. You essentially have raptors, flying raptors, small raptors, and larger armored raptors. I know I joke they're all raptors, but the enemy behavior is exactly the same. They run or fly at the player and attack you until you are dead. You deal with them all in exactly the same way. Zigzag while running past them, go into another room, or in the case of the large armored raptor, use the poison or sleep darts, then run past them. I said earlier that all boss encounters are puzzles to be solved. The same is true about enemies in specific rooms. The solution is always run around them, and no room is very big. Reach Rick, and it seems the distress signal was not coming from Cooper, but actually Agent Tom, the guy from the intro movie who was undercover here, the guy who discovered Dr. Kirk. Agent Tom says Dr. Kirk is not researching clean energy, at least not anymore, and we need to get the generators back online to power the lift. This is the third Restart the Generators puzzle. This one is a bit more complex, involving lowering 3 coloured pipes from the ceiling and matching them up to connect across the room. The challenge here is how long the animations take of each lowering and raising. There's no way to fail this, it's just a time sink. Solve the pipe puzzle, generator back on, picked up by another flying raptor and almost dropped into a spinning fan blade, but the bird decided to dive in first, then head with Rick deeper into the facility.
So you saw the beast, right?
Yeah. Pteranodon, wasn't it?
I meant you saw that it was a real dinosaur. It's unbelievable.
Didn't I tell you?
This is just like that movie.
Yes, Rick, this is just like that movie. Resident Evil, but with dinosaurs. We can't move through this warehouse because some of the boxes are in the way, so use the crane control card from your inventory to activate the crane. Just be aware item use is inconsistent. Some keys and items get used when you interact with the thing they are for, like turning on a computer or opening a door. Other times the thing says, you must use this item, and then you have to go into your inventory and manually use it. There's no consistency to the design. Right, the crane puzzle. You can only move the crane a limited number of times, shown by ordering these input cards. You must clear a path. This is the most convoluted system. Who designs a crane like this? Imagine turning up to work and this is how the crane works. So we clear a path, find some more memos on some more dead bodies, then a raptor jumps us and we kick it back into an electrified panel. New enemy, small raptors, lots of them. The shotgun can clear them out nicely, but honestly just save your ammo and run past them. We catch up with Rick and Agent Tom and oh no, they got ambushed and Tom is dead. Rip in peace, Tom. But the worst thing is, you can't even take his Uzis. Let me have his Uzis, game. He's not using them. He's dead. You'll also notice this is a medical room and a save room. And it has literally the exact same layout and the same camera placement as the previous save room. There's even a memo in the same place on the same table. It's a copy-paste room without one of the doors. We head into the strategy room and find the fingerprint reader. An important file on the table tells us that we can use this to rewrite ID cards, so now we've got a use for all the dead bodies and employee numbers we've been finding. Use the fingerprint scanner on a body, find the ID number of that body, rewrite a card for them and use that to head deeper into the facility. We take the elevator down and get jumped by a raptor. Remember, when you shoot them, they're not dead until they start bleeding, but they will fake their death and lie down. If they are just lying there, shoot them again. A note tells us the DDK lock system is going to get more complex, a number replacement cipher. Thankfully, the code for the laboratory is laboratory. Frankly, by now, I'm amazed the gun safe wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4. Sleeping dinosaur creep past all sneaky beaky like, and here's a visual touch I love. Regina will turn her head to focus on an enemy, so you have a small visual clue that there is something around a corner. That's a nice touch. We find the handgun sights. These allow critical hits, which again is a trap. Never use the handgun. And then we find info on something called the third energy. Basically, it's an unlimited energy supply. And whoever or whichever country could harness the third energy experiment would be the dominant superpower forever. I can see why we want Dr. Kirk. This experiment room then explains that red gas neutralizes green gas, blue neutralizes orange, and green neutralizes purple, sort of like rock, paper, scissors. And this matters because we unlock the experiment chamber and find a researcher trapped inside, being poisoned. Worry not, my friend. I will save you. Just need some red, and oh, no, that was bad. Maybe some green. Have some blue. Okay, that's not working. Have more of everything. What happens if you add red twice? Oh, he dies. Well, nothing to be done now. Slowly neutralize the gas and head on in. If you did save him, you get a key for a medical box earlier. Either way, you get his card key. Leave, and a raptor jumps you, falls into the gas room, and you can then have a lovely moment of catharsis and poison it. Rewrite the scientist's key in the library computer by playing a bit-swapping minigame, moving sections to the top of a list. Use this to open a library hard drive and find the second card needed for the secret lab. Attacked by 2 more raptors and begin to limp and bleed. I like how you leave blood footprints as you walk, and then used a maxed out med pack to fix everything in one go and reach the room with the secret entrance. But you need 2 people, so we radio Gale, because he's the competent one.
So, what's our status?
Here, take this.
Ready? Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Open the secret energy room, another puzzle lock. The code is energy, and in here we find a strange anomaly, a morphing but stable rip in space and time. This is the third energy, focused not into a power source but a supernatural phenomenon. I find the shotgun stock and install it for quicker reloading, use a screwdriver to open this grid panel and solve a 3x3 grid puzzle where you need to place these 3 images together, each overlapping the previous to match the picture, and when we do, the emergency lockdown starts.
The emergency system has been activated. Emergency lockdown in progress.
What's going on?
Oh, Kirk must have tripped off the security system.
It seems Dr. Kirk doesn't want us getting any closer to him, and now another choice. Do we follow Gale and shoot our way out of this lockdown, or follow Rick and attempt the safer but longer escape route through the emergency hatch?
I think my issue with the choices is the narrative framing of how you make them. As it stands, it's framed as Rick has a solution, Gale has a solution, who is correct? Which is placing the adventure choice on Rick and Gale. You're just a passive voice. You're a kingmaker. You're the deciding vote, but never the idea haver. But if this were recontextualized as, this event is happening, what do you think Regina should do? And then your choice is reacted to by Rick or Gale, that's mechanically the same, but narratively, we've now placed you, and Regina as you, as the driving force of the choice, and let the supporting cast react to your choices, instead of you reacting to theirs.
I'm pretty low on ammo because the game doesn't give you a lot, so I'll go with Rick's puzzle idea. Plus, if you fail the puzzle, you end up shooting your way out anyway, so there's no reason to not try, but I hope you've got a pen and paper handy. Remember the letters which flash up from the cards on the screen. Do this 3 times, with each time getting faster and more complex, and eventually you'll unlock the escape hatch. We begin our escape, return to the container room, and finally catch Dr. Kirk. The Doctor questions our authority to do anything, and Gale counters with the power of gun, and the Doctor concedes. But now we need to call backup and escape. This means activating the communications dish, so we take the Doctor's keycard, which gives us access to a deeper part of the facility, head back to the original control room and operate the lift to get to the final floor of the complex. Down here we find the antenna activation key. Activate the antenna with the key, and now we can go call in the evac team. We begin to head back to Rick, and oh, it's our old friend the T-Rex. Just run. You can't fight this guy here, and if you do get bitten, it's game over, so same tactics as before. Shoot it every time it lunges at you to push it back. Do this 3 times and it goes away. We head to the helipad and wait for escape. The pterodactyls are back, the raptors are swarming, and here is another block-pushing puzzle as a little treat. We find the grenade gun, so that's nice, and then back to pushing blocks. If you mess up, you have to leave the room to reset the puzzle. The issue here is this is kind of a fake-out ending, so the action music is playing constantly. It's keeping the energy up, but a logical block puzzle is not the most action-heavy sequence. It's not intense, so there's a real disconnect between the music and the actual gameplay experience. Reach the helipad and the helicopter is here. Reinforcements have arrived and we are saved. We can leave, but oh no, Mr. T-Rex is back and he fancies a helicopter as a light snack. With the rescue team now killed and the helicopter destroyed, we start one of the stranger boss fights. You need to wait for Rick to fix the elevator in the corner so we can escape the helipad. And this means run in circles around the crashed helicopter, staying away from the T-Rex for about 3 minutes. You can't fight back, shooting it does nothing, so just run in circles. When the lift is fixed, head into the facility, but yet again another elevator needs fixing.
This whole facility is probably held together with tape and glue.
We find a note on a body saying there's a boat on level B3. That is our only escape now. So we descend deeper and the power goes out. Time to fix a generator for the 4th time this game. Floor B3 is a big puzzle. There's a control room down here. If we had power, Rick could open the door and give us access to the port and the boat and freedom. So we search around and find a new enemy type, armored raptors. These guys are just bigger and faster, and this is where the insta-kill poison darts are very much needed. We find 3 crane cards scattered around, activate the crane, and another block-moving puzzle using limited movement cards, but this one does have an interesting trick. I assumed there is a final position for each block on the floor, but there isn't. You actually end this puzzle by picking up a block and then not dropping it back down, keeping it on the hook. That's pretty clever. Moving the blocks lets us get to a keycard on a dead body, and I like how if you're injured, the walking upstairs transition animation still shows you being injured. This visual is super cool, and probably the best use of the 3D environments over pre-rendered assets. Running through the security room and seeing the body scanner in the foreground, showing the weapon you're carrying. This is a great use of 3D space and camera positioning. Also a lovely visual tie-in to activating the intruder alarms.
You can break Dino Crisis 1 into 3 acts, roughly, each with a different overall vibe and main objective. From landing on the island to finding Agent Tom is the first act. This is mostly outside or in the superficial offices. It's tense, scary, dark. It's the closest the game gets to being Resident Evil horror. The second act is from finding Agent Tom to calling in the escape helicopter, which happens in the warehouses, the generator rooms, and has a bit of backtracking to gather older codes. The vibe now becomes puzzle, exploration, less fear and more tactical travel. And the third act is from here until the end, the objective being get to the port, the location is the science labs, and the feeling is honestly tedium. By now you've realized the best tactic for all enemies is to run past them, insta-kill them, or put them to sleep. And each room is so small you're never more than a few seconds away from escape from any encounter. The puzzles also start to get quite a bit stranger. Turn the intruder alarm off, head back, and then actually quite a good jump scare. We get ambushed by a dinosaur jumping out of this vent, but there is a fake out first. Nothing attacks you, then it appears. Then we find Rick and Dr. Kirk having a lovely chat in Dr. Kirk's office. We grab some more code keys and then a dinosaur jumps at me while I'm running to open a door, but thankfully once you do open the puzzle screen, the dinosaurs just sit and wait for you to solve it first. Rick has hacked the system, but there is a problem. We still need a key, and an overheard radio conversation says the guy who has the key is being chased by Mr. T-Rex.
You copy, Mike? I found the key to the port, but I got a lizard riding on my tail. I'm heading to the main elevator right now. I'll meet it at the ground level. Hurry!
Back to the main lift where the radio chatter came from, then the T-Rex bursts into the room, headbutts the generator, and dies. What a great series of events. The problem with this is the generator is now destroyed, so the door won't open, so we can't get to the key we need. So now we have to fix the generator for the 5th time. We open a door, grab the port key from the dead scientist, and return to Rick. But there's another problem. The corridor to the port is blocked by one of those strange third energy anomalies. Rick flips a coin into it, and the coin is vaporized, so yeah, we probably shouldn't walk through this. This means we need to turn off or overload the third energy generator to destroy the space-time vortex, allowing us access to the port so we can escape. So back into the labs we go. We use the fingerprint scanner to gather some more dead people data, and then use more files to find more employee numbers and rewrite more keycards to give us more access to more rooms, and thankfully the code to the stabilizer room is stabilizer. Thankfully in here there's a great use of sound as we can hear a raptor munching on something before we can see it. The third energy corridor, which would get us to the generator, is locked. The code is Dr. Kirk, and inside we find the colossal main generator. We run along, and the graphical glow and flickering of those monitors, seen through the slats of the metal walkway we are on, is a lovely effect. That is a great use of the 3D environments that you couldn't do if the game was pre-rendered. It's a shame they kept the graphically impressive stuff this far into the game. Find a map of the B2 lab and a dying but not dead scientist. It's a shame we can't use a medkit to heal them, but we can look at them sadly. That's all we can do. On the table we find a folder with Dr. Kirk's personal information in it, including his employee number 78814. Remember that, and then find a strange game inconsistency. In this wall box I find 2 types of ammo for the grenade launcher, but the description of each is different. One says bullets for the grenade gun, and the other says bullets for a grenade gun. It's small templating inconsistencies like this that I find odd. Here's a lovely parallax scrolling depth effect with silhouetted objects in the foreground, the chain link fence, and then the background scenery behind Regina. We turn on the third energy machine and hear a gunshot behind us. Return to the room, and the barely alive scientist is now not very alive at all. She's been shot, and there's a bloody handprint on the wall. Cool touch here. You can actually use the fingerprint scanner to take the scan from that handprint. We chase down the mysterious shooter, and it was Dr. Kirk. He holds us at gunpoint, but then Gale shows up and holds him up with a pointier gun, and then we get a 4-minute unskippable cutscene where the good doctor reveals the unintended time travel properties of the third energy research, with the best over-the-top voice acting.
Oh, right. So that's how those dinosaurs appeared in our time.
Precisely. And that is what I have done.
Uh-huh. And how many people were sacrificed before you made this discovery?
Who cares? The numbers are quite irrelevant. Let's just say that there were many. Extraordinary deaths for ordinary men, don't you think?
Spoken like a true devil.
A god or a devil? I don't care about that. Only my experiment.
I love the smugness of a Resident Evil-style villain. So the third energy causes rips in space and time and transports stuff from the past here. Whatever was here before is here now. Let's not mention the practicality of the fact the Earth is moving through space, and if you take the exact coordinates within 3D reality millions of years ago, it would just be nothing. That doesn't matter. It's dinosaurs. Accept it. Well, it turns out the side effect of transporting dinosaurs from the past to the now is really powerful, and the military kind of want it. So now another choice. We need to assemble two things to operate the third energy machine, the initializer and the stabilizer. Gale's plan is to shoot our way to the storeroom and find pre-built ones. Rick's plan is to sneak around the labs and find the bits we need to build them. I don't have the ammo for a firefight, so I go with Rick. Sneak around, which does get us one of the more unusual puzzles. There are 6 parts to find, all hidden behind various puzzles, and in one room we find a wiretapped conversation and listen on in.
My only concern regarding the new generator is the stabilizer. It functions perfectly under nominal conditions, but it's still a problem under certain conditions. Look, with the generous budget, personnel, and facilities at your disposal, shouldn't you be able to solve that problem? Once complete control can be established, we will literally have the power of a god at our disposal, and it will all be attainable if you cooperate with me. The power of a god. How could I refuse?
At the end of this conversation, we hear 6 distinct beeps. Those beeps and their exact tone relate to this sliding lane puzzle. You must move the target to the correct dots to match the tone pattern exactly. There is only one way to do this, making this the only puzzle which actually needs the in-game audio. And as you do, remember the 6-digit number you end up creating, because you then need to take that number and, following these rather convoluted instructions on a memo, add a 0 to the start and the end of it to make it 8 digits, then split that number in half down the middle and enter each 4-digit code into 2 halves of a lock. That took me way longer than I'd like to admit to work out. Once you've found all 6 bits of the stabilizer and initializer, assemble them in this spinning object minigame, having to spin to match the incoming direction of the new piece. The challenge here is each piece has different spin speed and friction. There's no penalty for failure, just keep trying. Then return to the security card ID room using the bloody fingerprint data you scanned from the wall, which we now know was Dr. Kirk and his employee number we found earlier. You can rewrite a keycard with his authorization getting us everywhere. Return to the main third energy generator room, run across a few walkways, turn the system on, then head around the side and place the stabilizer and initializer into their respective housings. Take a small elevator down to the lower levels and walk across this gantry which has steps on it, but notice that you can't go up or down the steps in normal gameplay. You still have to interact, making them the only cutscene which doesn't actually cut away. Activate the third energy machine and send it into meltdown. We see a short cutscene showing the whole facility start to collapse. Dr. Kirk is almost crushed, but Gale heroically pushes him from danger, saving Kirk but harming himself. Thankfully, as Kirk runs off, Gale throws a tracking device onto his back. We meet back up with the team. The third energy anomaly has been removed, so the path to the port is clear, but now one final choice. Gale wants to stick to the mission, go and grab Kirk, and then escape. Rick wants to forget Dr. Kirk and escape right now before the third energy goes critical or some dinosaurs eat us. You must choose, and this is the only choice which matters because it actually affects the game's ending in a very small way. There are technically 4 possible endings based on your choices. The table is on the screen now. This is the only time you can choose to follow a path and then go and do something else. Your choices are essentially escape by hovercraft or by helicopter, and then how many of the teams survive. I am going to follow Gale, track down Dr. Kirk, and complete the mission because it gets Regina the coolest ending voice line. You track down Kirk by following the tracker marks on your map. Notice this takes us back through the generator room where the T-Rex is supposed to be but isn't. So we catch up with Kirk and Gale then reveals the secret behind our actual objective.
You got your man, Gale.
You're not one to forget a grudge, are you?
Come on, let's go.
Regina, take this.
The disc?
It contains all the information on the third energy, including the details on how to use it as a weapon. Once we deliver this disc to our government, our real mission will be complete.
Just as I suspected.
What do you mean, our real mission? Our mission is to take back Dr. Kirk.
That was the official lie they fed you. Your boss only wanted the data from the very beginning.
What are you talking about?
Don't you get it, girl? It's so obvious. The government doesn't want me. They want the third energy. They want this weapon all to themselves.
Then this whole mission was a front from the very beginning.
So twist ending, we're the bad guys, sort of. The government didn't want clean energy, they wanted to use the third energy as a super weapon. And I mean, yeah, we're a crack team of elite soldiers sent in to kidnap a scientist from a foreign research facility. I don't think anyone playing this felt we were the paragons of morality. We don't look like the good guys.
You're right. Let's go, Gale.
And this is the reward for a lifetime of service to the government. Sad, isn't it?
Let's go.
Well, Regina learns the truth. We punch Kirk for good measure. Gale decides now's a good time to die, so we return to Rick and let him know Gale is dead. And with all that sorted, we head to the port to escape. I feel Gale dying makes this the best ending, as he was loyal to the mission the whole time. We finally reach the hovercraft and start our escape, but our old friend Mr. T-Rex is back for one final showdown. We grab the grenade gun from the hovercraft, if you haven't already found it, stand on the roof and shoot every time he gets close. This is an on-rails timed boss fight, and after 3 shots, the T-Rex dies. Rick fires the boat-mounted missile, which we for some reason have, and then we get the ending cutscene, but the T-Rex is still not dead. Thankfully, we find some conveniently placed C4, and Regina finally gets a badass line.
End of the line for you, handsome. You're extinct!
Final playtime just under 9 hours, of which 3 was getting lost or waiting for puzzle animations to finish, so 6 was mostly solid dinosaur action, and that is Dino Crisis 1. Completing the game on PC unlocks the unlimited ammo grenade launcher on future playthroughs, or you can try Operation Wipeout, which is a time-based kill all the dinosaurs challenge, the main challenge being find a better weapon than the pistol.
So now we've finished the game, we can answer the simple question. The Dino Crisis 1 re-release on GOG. Is it good? The actual game build itself? Yeah, it's fine. Few minor graphical things like item layering and foreground object shake, but didn't crash, works in windowed mode, and has everything the original game had. Getting old software running on modern hardware is normally a nightmare. This was very simple. I also got a reply from GOG about the costumes being unlocked from the start instead of being unlocked by finishing the game. It seems this was a Capcom decision for the PC version, and the unlimited grenade launcher is the correct reward for one game completion. So, there's the answer.
Is the game itself good, though? Well, it's fun for 6 hours, but it's not the best Capcom game ever made. The characterization is weak, the enemies are limited and samey, the boss fights are all gimmicks and you kill the T-Rex in a cutscene. The puzzles do have some inventive moments, but are mostly just logic tests, and the switch from pre-rendered backgrounds to 3D real-time environments is a technical step up at the cost of a stylistic step backwards. However, remember the PlayStation Plus version was locked behind the $18 a month sub? Well, the GOG version is $10. Or you can get the bundle with the sequel, because they've got Dino Crisis 2 on there as well. And I've never played Dino Crisis 2, so I'm going to go and do that now. Cheers for watching. Another massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch for keeping the channel alive, and Good Old Games for letting me test the PC release of Dino Crisis 1 and 2. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and our Discord, and as always, remember...